Be a part of the show. Call 866-594-4150. Under the Hood is produced by Prairie House Productions. All content is the property of Nordstrom's Automotive Incorporated and may not be used without our permission. Copyright Nordstrom's Automotive, Inc. Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstrom's Motor Medics.
Welcome to the Under the Hood Show. We are glad to have you with us. Russ Evans is here to answer your automotive questions.
Hey, thanks for joining us under the hood.
Shannon Nordstrom is here to do the same.
Welcome, hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
I'm Chris Carter here to answer your calls at 866-594-4150. A very slippery start to our day here in the home market. As slippery as I can remember it on a drive-in this morning. Early this morning, every moment of my trip from sidewalk to work was
I had that too. It was
ice.
crazy, and it's kind of a good time to mention and bring up. We'll do a real short here. The federal people have said you need to end all those funny signs. This morning I came in and it said, "Ice, ice, baby. Drive carefully. Ice on road."
Uh-huh.
Now, I don't know what your opinion is of that, but I think that's fun. It's catchy. It makes me want to look at that sign every time I drive by and see if something new is there. If it's just a constant, be careful, ice, I'm probably going to block it out, ignore it. But those things, there's funny stuff. It's like,
Have you listened to the song since you saw it?
No.
Because you're going to reach for the radio and take out a herd of deer.
I could.
That's what's going to happen.
They've got all sorts of fun sayings that they put up there, and the federal government has said, no, you can't do that any longer. If it's on an interstate highway, it's banned. You can no longer put those signs
They have a
up.
timeline on it, and so it'll be interesting to
2
see
years,
what happens. Because I know there's many states that are saying, no way. Like
Leave us alone.
Arizona had contests
Leave us
to see who can come up with the
Yeah.
most clever signs.
There's a lot of states that are deciding to do their own things these days. So I'm wondering what happens. But those signs,
But here's the
it's
thing:
fun.
Ice Ice Baby, they got the attention of everybody that was like 47 years plus,
Yeah,
and everybody else like what is that about?
But even
That one
if
might
you're
translate.
Yeah.
even if you're 20, you
Yeah.
look at that and go, well, that's a little odd. Oh, there's ice on the road.
You're still looking at the sign. Your 20-year-old self right now is still looking at the sign.
I am.
And there's ice on the road.
I
That's
am.
why. You're why.
I think
missing
one
the-
of our neighboring states, Minnesota, they had said no. They already said we're not, which is unusual because in our area they're usually the one that would be right in lockstep with the federal government.
Yeah.
But, one of their state officials said no,
Leave us alone.
but they're concerned about folks that are not as culturalized as say we are. That would look at the sign, laugh at that. Go ahead. It deserved laughter.
Minnesota, use the blinker. What?
That was Boston. Use the blinker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The blinker, don't you know?
Yeah,
or something like that.
But there was a bunch of them out there. But that they said, you get somebody here that just moved to our country and they've just got citizenship. They are learning the language.
Oh, I can see how that goes.
They could say, well, they don't get it.
Hey, go to our YouTube page and comment what the funniest ones you've
Oh, there you
seen
go.
are on this video. It'll have the title up. Did
you put a video out there about it, or
no,
just on this?
Not a video,
Okay.
but on this episode.
Because I think I posted something on our Facebook
You'll have
page
it.
here maybe a week ago about this or something. But yeah, it was definitely there. Everybody was running the story. If you saw everything with an auto something on their Twitter or on their whatever, they had this story going out because it's a noteworthy story. I think I forwarded a Fox News affiliate out of Houston or something like that had posted a story.
You put it on our Facebook page.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, Facebook page. Yep.
That's where I first got the news.
Yeah.
So I stole the Under the Hood news from an Under the Hood show employee.
That's right.
Is that right?
Well, I stole it from a news outlet that put it out in the public domain.
I was
so-
reading it while I was driving. So
Were you?
Yeah. 866
Eyes up.
594-4150. Let's go to Missouri and talk to Ed. You're on the End of the Hood Show. What can we do for you, Ed?
Good morning. I'm working on my son-in-law's 2013 Ford F-150 with a 5.0 four-wheel drive short wide bed, and it has a intermittent no crank, no start. And when that happens, the service advanced track check engine brake system light comes on, and you wait a while, and it starts up. But it's totally unpredictable. We took it to a Ford dealer, and they had it for quite a while, and they could not duplicate the problem. and I put it on my Alltel scanner, and it comes up with about 17 codes. I've checked the fuses, the relays, and the connectors, but you just never know when it's going to happen.
No more intermittent calls, I say.
Yeah, no kidding.
I know. I've listened to you all, and I know that's the number one thing you don't want anybody to
You
say.
might get an intermittent answer. So
I understand those. I'm old.
So this time, thanks for the call. Goodbye. This is an intermittent one.
Yeah.
So if you clear all those codes out and then you drive it and nothing happens, I'm guessing you probably don't get any codes back. But then if you drive it and it happens, then all the codes reappear, right?
Yes.
If I had to guess, because that's all I can do.
Because that's what we're doing right now.
I'm going to give you an intermittent guess. I'm guessing that either the engine computer or the body control module has a failure in it. Not a wiring issue or anything like that, because we've worked on hundreds of these trucks that use this system in our shop, and we just have not had any wiring problems at all on these that would affect the data system or the computer body that would cause
unless it's had some sort of surgery and there's been a major operation and somebody had it apart, then
even a part, it's like if they're crashed real hard in the front, that could happen. But if it hasn't been crashed really hard to disable stuff, I'm going for one of those computers failed. And the most common one we see, I've never replaced an engine computer on one of these. They just are almost bulletproof. But I have replaced a lot of body control modules, which can prevent it from starting. That is part of the fuse box on the passenger side kick panel, right by the floorboard. And if you take that kick panel off and pull that whole module out, you can unplug it. Just take all the plugins, just unplug them. They're labeled and colored, and it can only go in one way. But take them all out, take the box out, look at it, and see if you see any water intrusion, because they do have issues with that. The floor can rust out, and you can get a little bit of water through the bottom side. It can overflow through a ventilation system that has the drain plugged for the air conditioning, and where you're at, possibly, and that's got wet, or just condensation on the outside of a cold AC box when it's hot and humid out. That can get over in there too. A windshield leaking can do it, but any kind of corrosion in there will cause a failure and can cause this type of issue. Even not corroded, it may just be failed. But if I was going to guess and throw one part in it, I would put one of those in there. And you can put a used component in there. We put the used ones in all the time and then reprogram them, and they're fine. And I think, it's an under $500 repair. And where you're at now with this constant, can't drive the vehicle and everything, that'd be my place to start. I think after all this other work, I'd say, let's throw this in and see what happens.
Is it any signal at all, or is it just the randomization of whatever the error might be? If there was something broken, that he gets the advanced track light when it doesn't want to start, you think,
I
Russ?
think that's just random because of all the codes it's throwing.
Because there's nothing in that advanced track system that we know of that would stop a vehicle from starting typically.
No, but there are other codes that'll come up when it doesn't start that would turn that light on.
Because it's not functioning right. It says, this system
can't
doesn't work.
It'll turn it on.
Okay.
Yeah, it's only got 80,000 miles on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I've gone through and I got a list of the grounds online and went through 17 of them and sanded them, dielectric greased them. And,
good idea.
Thinking, I've got it this time. But on the BCM, you said that it can be replaced, but it has to be reprogrammed. Does that have to be done by a dealer?
No, it can be done by any shop that has a Ford or a laptop with programming software. And any person off the street that owns the correct laptop can buy a J-tool to program it and buy the software and do it yourself. I mean, it's going to cost you a few $100, so most people don't do it for one programming time. But you purchase the software one vehicle at a time and plug it in, and then you can program any module on your car for a few days.
Ed, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show.
Be sure to visit our website for news, contests, and previous shows at underthehoodshow.com. Welcome back, everybody. It's time to get back under the hood with the Motor Medics.
866-594-4150. Let's talk to Randy. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Randy, what can we do for you?
Yes, good morning. I have a 2009 Dodge Journey SXT with a 3.5 liter. My problem is with remote start. It has battery remote start. And it's not the problem with the vehicle starting. It's with the vehicle staying running after it starts with the remote start. Now, in the summertime, I don't use it, but it does work great in the summertime. Always starts and always keeps running. But when it gets cold, that's when I have issues, and it doesn't want to stay running.
Will it
runs
always
for like 15?
It just
runs
shuts
for like
down?
23 seconds.
23 seconds.
Yeah, it just shuts down.
But it
And
starts
then you
every
try and
time.
start it again.
With the key, it
Yeah, it'll
starts,
start
right?
in the wintertime. Well, yeah, it starts fine with the key.
Okay.
But you try and use the remote start, you push the button, you lock the doors, push the button twice, it starts, but it always runs for a little bit and shuts off. And then after that, you can't start again with remote start. It won't start up again the second time.
Well, that makes sense
Now,
because
I know,
it's a lockout.
right.
You know, after the first time it starts, and then once it sees a fault, it's going to shut it off, and you won't be able to use that starter again unless you turn the key on, start the car, and turn it back off. And that's the way it's working, right?
Right.
Okay.
I got to ask just a couple probing questions here. '09 Journey, is this the integrated factory remote start, or is this an aftermarket remote start?
This is factory remote start on the key fob.
Okay. And if you, just to reiterate this, if you go out, same temperature, same kind of day, and put the key into ignition first time and start the vehicle, will it keep running?
Yeah, yes. There's never been an issue with that. The key always works great in the vehicle.
But then as soon as
I
you
never
use
had issues now.
as soon as you use the remote start in that same condition, same situation, similar, you're never going to have exactly, but they're all going to be similar. Then it'll run for 23 seconds, not that you've measured, and then die and lock out and not start and work again.
Right, but only under cold circumstances. In the summertime, I don't use it in the summertime, but in the summertime, if I try it, it always works great and keeps running. Only quits in the wintertime.
Have you ever got a scanner out and checked for pending codes right after this has happened and it's not started, when it shut itself down, and then you've had to start it with the key?
I never checked it right after this happened. I do have a service light on. I know sometimes the service light can keep it from starting,
Right.
and will maybe make it shut down sometimes. But my service light that's on there right now is only for the oxygen sensor issues.
That'll do it.
That'll do it.
Yep. So, and
That'll
here's,
do it?
yeah, and that one also can turn itself off. So, if you start the car up with a remote start in the cold weather and the remote starter is running and all of a sudden it sees a fault in the oxygen sensor heater circuit when it's cold, or even in measuring of the fuel air content, it sets a pending code. That'll shut that remote start down. But then when you go start it with the key and it warms up a little further and it's no longer seeing the fault, the pending code turns into a non-existent code. It's gone now because it's operating
That's
properly.
completely plausible.
So-
Okay.
That's why I would say start it up with this remote start in the cold weather. First, make sure there's no codes in the system. Don't clear anything, but just read it and make sure that it's code-free. Then start it with the remote start, and then as soon as it dies, I wouldn't even turn the key back off. I would just plug the scanner into it, and I would read it and see if there's a pending code. And if it's for an oxygen sensor, put an oxygen sensor in, and I bet your problem will go away. We usually have people coming in wanting to fix their remote starts when it's extremely cold, and we run into situations like this quite often where it's a shutdown immediately after, or it just won't start.
So this code is the remote start sees the code and shuts it down, but if it's not remote started, it just works its way through.
If
It just
if
skips
it's not
it.
right, it'll set it as a pending code,
And
and
then
then the
just-
car warms up,
Okay.
and then the code goes away, so it never turns the light on.
Does that make sense,
'cause
Randy?
They wouldn't want the car to self-destruct
Right. They
under,
want you
under,
to do
under
that.
its own electronic starting mechanism.
They want you to
Yeah.
wreck
Chris,
it.
you do that.
Yeah.
And it's your fault.
Does that make sense, Randy?
Well, but in the summertime, though, even with the service light on in the summertime, it'll start and stay running, even with the service light on in the summertime. So that only affects it in the wintertime, then you're saying?
No, it just depends on the pending code and what the strategy is in the computer. So
Right.
the computer has a strategy programmed into it that says, at this temperature, do this. At that temperature, do something else. When this light's on, do this. When there's a pending code for two of these things together, or just one or the other, or one's first before the other. So it's doing something different. The colder it gets, the different it works. So you've got an oxygen sensor heater that runs when it's cold, but it runs even longer when it's really cold. So different things.
It might,
different
that
strategies.
code might say shut the engine down when it's below X degrees, and it just
Exactly.
never gets that cold in the summer. So that's why it's working its way through in the summer.
For sure.
There you go, Randy. Thanks very much for the call. I feel pretty good about that one. Like you guys both right away were on it, and when he went that direction, you were like, I like that. Randy, good. Thanks, Randy. That's not an intermittent problem. That's one that he can check.
He can. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
You can check it.
I
That's a
like
good
it.
one.
866-594-4150. Eagle Pro here on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you in Alabama?
Hey guys, how's it going? Can you hear me?
You bet
yeah.
we can.
Black.
All right, guys. So I
The car?
So I have a so guys, I have a small paint and body shop here in Alabama, and I wanted to call you about one of my customers' cars.
Oh.
So it is a '84 Grand National GNX. Guy just showed up on my door one day. Didn't have the car, of course, but he went on to tell me a story. He said, "Well, I went out of town a couple days ago, and when I came back, my car was missing the doors. It was missing the hood. It's missing the trunk lid and most of the interior. Can you help me?" I said, "Well, let me think about it, and I'll give you a call back." So I started searching around for stuff, found a hood, found, trunk lid. But what I'm coming across is I cannot find a door or doors. So my question for you guys is, do you think an '84 Regal doors will fit on the Grand National?
They're the same doors, just different trim. They took all the chrome trim and turned it to black trim.
And the
And
body molding on the bottom.
Yeah. It's the same door and same body lines.
Same doors?
Yeah. If you go on to one of our partners is Car Dash Part, and where you're at in the country, Alabama, you'll be able to do a regional search near you, and you could move that regional search if you don't have rust problems. If I was in my area and I had a clean Grand National trying to fix,
I'm going to move Alabama.
I'm moving my search south
Yeah.
to try to find rust-free parts if I'm going to restore this car.
And it will find, you can put in there and see everything.
Yeah, and you could probably find a Regal Limited, which would have the same door options inside. Probably would have the power windows, power locks, maybe the upgraded sound system that they had in those cars.
Mm-hmm.
So you maybe get some of that wiring, hopefully to match too, because that's as big a problem as the door itself. And your trim panel is going to be unique. I and Russ both happen to be fans of these cars. I had a couple of them in high school. I wrecked one. Yeah, that's how I do it. I'd use Car Dash Part, and I would search, and you'll find when they ask you the questions to search for the part, they have interchange integrated into that. That's a classic enough vehicle that interchange has been vetted over the years by the industry, and you'll be able to find out a interchangeable part that will fit that car by doing that Car Dash Part search.
Okay.
And
all right. Well, I'll definitely check there for those doors.
You bet. And you'll be able to find somebody that's near you, and then you just you could get a list of 5 people that show doors, and then you do your own due diligence. You call them, you email them, you can chat, I think, with some people right from that search, and they can send you pictures, and you're getting back old enough where there isn't a lot of this stuff inventoried anymore, but there are facilities in the country that have, because of the crushing operations that took place and all this, they started to specialize in some of these types of vehicles. And the G-bodies are coming on strong, and that would be definitely something I think you'd be able to find. Now, I do have to correct you on something because I just can't take it.
Right.
What year is the car?
84.
Okay. They didn't come out with a GNX until 87, and they were very limited production, and they only made 500 of them. The GNX was kind of the big bad boy of the Grand Nationals. And the GNXs now, when you see one going across Barrett-Jackson, if somebody's kept one in low mileage, 150, 175, 200,000. I've seen them go for.
Certainly something you'd steal the doors off of.
Where the Grand Nationals themselves, like an 84 was not intercooled turboed, and they're neat cars, great cars, but they're floating between 15,000 and 50,000 right now. And so they're all collectible. And unless it's been painted, it's black. That's why I said that when we got on the call. In case anybody else is wondering, we usually play
when we guess the color.
We usually play the Berkeley Classic Guess the Color, but that one's indisputable unless it's been painted. So
we're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show. 866-594-4150.
Prepare to learn something. You're going under the hood.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. Don't forget, you can watch the show on our YouTube channel. If you subscribe to the YouTube channel and join the Hoodie Fan Club at underthehoodshow.com, you could win a hoodie.
Like Baltimore. Bart.
I wondered
I
where
could
he's
not,
going.
Yeah, I was not.
Yeah, we got there, though. Bart
Wooldridge, who's from Baltimore.
Oh, I see how that happened.
Congratulations.
Bart. Congratulations to our friends over at Universal Technical Institute, uti.edu. You go there, and you can learn about mechanics stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Not mechanics, but you know how to be one. All the stuff that goes with it. They're starting to get into more training and expanding now. Of course, they're getting into some of that. There's that electric stuff. There's hybrid stuff. Everything that's going to be relevant for you to be successful as a mechanic or a welder, a marine mechanic, CNC, all that. That's going to be trained there at Universal Technical Institute. And we know those guys there personally, and they do a great job. So check them out today, uti.edu.
Talking about that Buick Grand National, and we have this discussion every once in a while. That is a car, that body style, like you said, it's the G body.
I think I got that right. G body. Yep.
That is a style that I can remember having the thought in my head back then, or even maybe 10 years later. That's not a style that's going to transcend time. It's not going to be a cool vehicle in 30 years.
And you were wrong.
It's already been 30 years.
Yeah, 40 years. I was wrong, but am I wrong just because of the Grand National?
No, the Monte Carlo SSs are something that's popular, and the Olds 442s aren't as popular.
Are they
but
popular with
not.
everybody?
Yeah.
Or are they popular
that
with
is
us?
a great point.
Are they popular with it? Well, wait
They're
a second.
popular with the people that want one.
I got a 21-year-old or 20-year-old that works with me, and he thinks they're cool.
My
And he
wife
thinks
thinks
the
that the
Camaros
Grand
are cool.
Nationals are not exciting. She said they look like Monte Carlos.
That's what I think. I
That's what
think
my wife says too. I'm not a fan of Monte Carlo SS, and that says, no.
I think that when we were kids, when we were 20 years old, we could look at a 57 Chevy, and even if we weren't car people, we thought they were cool. I don't think there's 20-year-old now looking at, unless they know about Grand Nationals, they're not looking at a Monte Carlo, an 84 Monte Carlo, and going, that's cool.
Well, and I think the other thing that kind of drove it around, like it's my perspective and this market. And anywhere there was a dirt track that had a stock car class,
Sure.
every one of those cars got gobbled up for the frames and the bodies.
What a waste.
I do remember that, people saying that. They shouldn't use those cars.
So right now, if you happen to run across a rust-free where the frame's not rusted out and the body looks like something drug out of a shelter belt type car, you can get pretty good money for it still from somebody that wants to make a hobby stock or a race car.
He's saying if you have a Grand National, you should tear it down and make it a stock car. That's what I heard. He's saying they're for dirt tracks.
No, you use the.
Huh?
Well,
hold on.
You use the base. Use the base Regal.
We got to take a call. Let's talk to Josh. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Josh, what can we do for you?
Yeah, thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
Got a 98 Chevy K1500 truck. I've had it for about 5 years, and it's been there since I bought it. But that's the security light issue, and it's kind of gotten worse now to the point where it's hard to. Used to be able to cycle the key for try to start up for 5 seconds, leave it in the on position. 10 minutes later, light goes off, start it up. Now it's getting to the point where it doesn't want to reset. And I'm just wondering if there is a economical way just to get that taken care of. So that's no longer the security. I don't care if the security light system is deleted or if there's what the best way to get that fixed is, so it no longer has that issue.
This got to be a 99. 98 and older didn't have security.
Well, I'm just trying to think if that Russ and I were looking at each other when we.
The only one I can think of, not on a 1500, because they didn't even have.
Just trying to think that last year that they did that body style, did they start bringing in something?
Well,
is your key chipped or anything? No, 99 it's
well,
not.
They wouldn't.
99 it's not, but does your key look any one bit unique? I just got to ask that question.
No, it's just a standard GM key. And I believe that the pass lock system in that is in the.
It's on the tumbler.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now they use that. They use that on cars, but I've just never had the 97 didn't have it. 96 didn't have it. I own those vehicles and they just don't have it. But the 98, sometimes they carry. You get to the end.
They're getting ready for.
I do know that in a Suburban and the Cadillac Escalade, George Williamson's 98 Escalade did have that passkey system on it. So assuming yours has the same, for whatever reason, it's got that same thing right at the end of the run where they're using that passkey, the cylinder wears out inside. And if the key tumblers in there are worn out, if you got a worn out key and they're not in the right position, they're magnetic, and that's how it senses if it's got the right key in that slot. And then when you turn it, it passes. So quite often we've replaced the lock cylinder and the whole thing, the whole switch, not the electrical part of the switch, but the whole mechanical part of it with the pass lock system on it, and then redone it. You can get around that system by getting people will put the correct resistor in under the dash. They'll have to measure with the key in as they rotate it and see what the resistance is. And I've seen with remote starts, we used to put a bypass in, and that's how we knew. I did so many remote starts in those model vehicles that we just didn't have any with security. We had to bypass. I don't think I'd ever had a truck with one in it in 98, but 99 they all did. Everything had it, and by 99 they switched, and they were using the plain metal key with that same rotational type tumbler. Same system they used in the dash of Monte Carlos and Regals and stuff, but it's in a column in the truck. So, and the other way to do it too is to get a bypass module for a remote start, and that can go in underneath the dash. It'll bypass that key if you set it in that mode where it's always bypassing. That's another way around it too. So your options are a resistor down there, fixing it correct with a new lock cylinder and the tumbler, the whole thing, or getting a bypass module for a remote start.
Now that remote start, how do you find one of those? And does that just plug into your OBD2 ports, or how does that work?
Well, what you do is you go to a shop that installs remote starts, like here Audio Playground does it. They're friends of ours here locally that they do hundreds and hundreds of these things, and they know how to bypass the security to make the remote start be able to start the vehicle without a key. So they're also able to make that vehicle, these older ones, start without the proper key. You turn the key and it'll just start because the computer thinks, hey, we've got the right key in.
You still got to have the right key code to go into Tumbler and stuff, but it just doesn't. It just says that system is not. We don't see that anymore
because you can't shut that system down. The only way you could shut that system down would be to get. See, I'd have to look and see which computer's in it. But if it's the same, if it's got pass lock in it, it's the newer computer. If it doesn't, it's the older computer, and it's got different wiring because it's a different plug-in. So you can't just plug the old computer in and program it with one without it. It would be the new style computer in it.
And if I'm bringing it to, like you said, we would bring it to Audio Playground. Mm-hmm. If I'm bringing it to any big stereo, big remote start place, they'll know what I want to do, and they'll be able to
say, hey, I don't have a remote start in this, but I want to bypass the ignition security.
Or maybe they would say,
time.
we don't do that. Or
they may say, hey, we could put a remote start in it for you, so now you got a remote start for cold and hot weather, and we'll just permanently bypass it, so your key thing isn't going to do it anymore. That they may be willing to do, because we did plenty of them like that.
And I can get a low cost, not as good remote start. I mean, they come in different levels. Although I will say, whatever level you get, you'll wish you'd just It was
Leveled up
only
a little-
$80 more.
leveled up a little more.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure. And you can put that in a different car later on down the road too.
Does that help you out there, Josh?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I did talk to a guy too that is able to come on site where the truck's at, and he said he's able to plug into the OBD2 port and basically delete the security system. I don't know if you guys have heard of that before.
Yeah, that's part of custom programming. It usually gets pretty expensive, but what they do is they read your computer, they download the file, they go in and they turn off the security, and then they program it back into the computer. We did that for a number of years with our factory performance stuff where we were building street rod engines, and we didn't, some of them didn't even have keys. So you had to start those engines without a key. Just turn the switch on for whatever they were being used for, whether some of them were used in airplanes, some of them were used on generator stands, things like that. So they just had to start them so we could go in. Yeah, we could turn it off that way, but there's no way to bypass it in the truck, but you can go into the settings of the computer and turn it off with a custom program. But I don't know what they want to charge, but typically we see anywhere from $400 to $700 for these custom programmers to go in, whether they're doing a full performance upgrade of the computer or shutting one thing off. They just think that's what their time's worth for that type of thing.
There has gotten to be more people around that are doing mobile and custom stuff. So in a certain market, wherever it might be, this could change rapidly without us knowing it.
Right.
But that's
Online,
that's what our experience was.
There's some guys online that'll go in and they go by what you want to shut off. So if you send them a street rod computer and you say, hey, I want this VIN programmed into it and I want these things turned off, like oxygen sensors, they can do those.
Kind of do it a la carte.
Yeah, so if you find one of those online, just type in custom computer programming for cars and see if somebody's doing the older ones and say, hey, I've got this. They'll want to know your model number of the computer that's right typed on the outside, and give them that, and they'll tell you how much and if they can shut off the VATS, Vehicle Anti-Theft System.
I'm just thinking, Russ, I wonder if they might not have added that on the trucks 96 and newer when they went to the new steering column and stuff in the old body style truck.
I've only seen it in the Suburban. I haven't seen it in a truck because we haven't had one fail in a truck.
Yeah.
I just know for a fact it was on an Escalade because we had to work with that, but that was a 98 Escalade.
Yeah.
Josh, did you have another question?
Yeah, and then just a real quick follow up on that one. So, just as a ballpark, if you take it to like an audio playground type of business, you just ask them to throw it, bypass that thing, and then also throw a cheap remote start. Ballpark is, if you were to take a guess, is that like a 500 and up or 500 and under type thing? Or?
No, to put a remote start in, you're going to be 500 and up for most. If to get the one that you're actually going to really like and enjoy and tell your friends, hey, I got this remote start, it's cool, I like it.
But I go back to Chris's comment though, Russ. If you did want more of the basic one, there are times where they run a special and they say, hey, we've got this unit. It's $250 installed, and it is what it is, but it probably includes a bypass module.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There you go, Josh.
Yep. And then the other quick question was on a 03 CRV, 2 engine codes on it, 0420 and a 1457. The 0420 with the
catalyst,
the cat converter. Yep. Is that more? I had talked to a shop and they were saying it's more likely that the element in the catalytic converter is just burned out, so it's flowing free versus being plugged up. I don't know if you guys have seen either case with that genre of CRVs or not.
We have never seen one plugged yet, but we've seen a lot of them just fail, and it's usually because the engine's starting to burn some oil and then the catalyst doesn't work anymore. So as long as it's got good power when you step on the throttle and runs, you can be pretty assured that it's not plugged. But the light on and that code means it's dying. Yeah.
Is there an impetus to get it fixed sooner than later?
If it's just the light and it's not lost any power at all, it's that's up to you.
Then
decide.
it's a moral question or an internal question. Josh, thanks very much for the call. 866-594-4150. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show.
Get your planner out right now and schedule your next radio appointment with the Motor Medics.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. Let's talk to Scott. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Scott, what can we do for you?
Yeah, I have a a couple of cars I'm thinking about restoring. I have a '89 Toyota Supra Turbo, and I also have a '91 Toyota Supra Turbo. And I've been going through quite a few surgeries and kind of ill, and I don't think I'm going to get a chance to get around to it. Do you think it's a good investment to restore them and try to sell, or I just wanted to get your opinion on that?
I will say that
this is a tough question.
No, it's not.
It isn't?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't think so. What condition are they in? What condition are they in?
Well, I have one been sitting up since 2006. I was driving every day, and one night on the way home from work, the turbo went out on it. And the only reason why I knew because the smoke just came up through inside the cabin, and it just shut off on me. But other than that, it was running terrific. The other one I bought to replace the engine. I just said I was going to put another engine in it because the '89 I had put about 200,000 or 300,000 miles on it. It was a great one running car, 5-speed. And I started getting ill, and this year I've had 5 surgeries, so I just can't see myself, really getting into it like I really wanted to. So I would just wanted to hear you guys' suggestions whether or not is it really worth it. Because the engine in the 91 only has 63,000 original miles on it.
And the what's the mileage on the other one that you think blew a turbo?
Both are turbo. Like I said, the '89 has I put at least a couple 100,000 or better on it. That thing, I took it everywhere: California, Chicago, everywhere. It never put me down.
Those cars are rapidly gaining value, and I don't think that the restoration process is cheap because they're a unique car, and you don't have a Classic Industries that you can get on the internet and order all the pieces for. If you don't have something or it's not in good condition, you're either going to have to hunt and search or manufacture the part to make it that way. Now, these cars being from the South, I'm assuming are not rusty.
No rust at all.
I think that the dollars that you would have to spend and the energy that you'd have to put out to do it, if you can't do it yourself and you had to pay somebody else, is going to be exponentially too high. But the vehicles themselves as they sit are worth good money for someone that would do the labor themselves, that loves those cars, there would be a few people that would bid almost over those cars to get them.
I want to jump in and just clarify. That is what I'm not trying to be revisionist, but when I said it's tough, it's totally worth doing if you can do it. The 200,000 mile car is a little more debatable because if it's a couple 100,000 miles, because in the end, even after you restore it, you've got a car with a history of 200,000 miles. You'd have to, on that car, go probably all the way on it or make it a custom. Right.
Where you've customized the drivetrain, you've customized whatever, and you've made it nice enough that people don't care about the miles because it's a unique new version of that car. People use high mileage cars for that because they're going to take everything apart.
And it's tough because I think if you look at 89 or 91 Supras, you're going to see them going for a lot of money. But like you said, if you're having all that work done to get it to that point, then it becomes a different value, a different ratio.
If you're a social media user and you got on the Facebook groups and found one, I'll guarantee you there's a group for, I can't remember the body code. I'm not totally into that stuff, but I pay attention to it.
Supra.
But there's a Supra owners group or there's a Celica Supra
50 of
or
them.
whatever that engine code that was in those cars was kind of legendary. And there's probably a group for that engine code, and you could just get in that group. You probably have to answer some questions to prove that you know about them, or you have one. And then eventually you learn enough where you say, hey, I've got these 2 to sell, and looking at what I think I know here, this is worth this much. Now, we have a partner in Berkeley Classics that these cars have definitely fallen into that category, and they would help you insure those cars if they can. And if you look at what their value is now, and you think you've come up with a value, they could affirm whether you're in the right range or not when they go to do the underwriting. But they're not appraisers, but they definitely want to work with you to find a value that you're comfortable with for your insurance that you put on it with Berkeley Classics. Are these still the original color? Don't tell me the color. I just want to know if they're the original color or not, because I think we need to guess. And we got
I have the original colors are on there, but you're going to have to go ahead and repaint them.
Yeah, no.
Oh, I turned them down.
Yeah.
We're going to try and guess the colors.
We have to get one of two right.
Right. Okay. So we
got good chances on this one.
Okay.
I'm thinking one is black and one is silver. Chris, what do you think?
I'm saying they're both white.
Okay.
I was thinking one's red and one's blue.
Maroon and I'm trying to remember what colors though. I haven't seen it in a while.
The what?
I got it
One was maroon. He said
The red
maroon.
and maroon color. Yeah.
Don't.
It's red.
No. Yeah. You can't.
Yeah, the other one is red. Right.
Oh,
red.
All right.
Oh, the other
I'll
one's
give
red.
you that one.
Red and maroon.
Then you
okay.
You don't
he
get
says
maroon.
one's maroon, one's red.
You
so
don't get maroon.
I only get one.
Yeah.
But I tell you though, that just I would if you are not somebody that does social media, get somebody that can help you and get online and look around a little bit.
Whatever you do with these cars, Scott, it certainly is worth pursuing their value.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's as they are or done. But this
don't let somebody come by and say, "Hey, you got those old Toyotas over there? I'll give you $1,000 a piece for them."
Right. Make sure.
And if you're going to do that, call me.
Yeah. But I mean, Scott, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. But that's a good portion. That's a good thing to know that it's not worth. You should not just let them sit and go away.
Yeah, if he's not going to do something with them, get them into the hands of somebody that would enjoy them because they're up and coming.
Got just a couple minutes here, Ryan. What can we do for you?
Yeah, I've got a 2008 Mazda 3, and I'm having some brake issues on it. When I pulled up to my buddy's place about a month ago, it was the first time I had been on ice, since last winter, and the ABS kicked on, so I kind of hit the brakes harder than what I usually would, and the pedal went further down than what it normally does. When I left his place, same kind of thing happened. But if you hit the pedal like at least one or two times, then it gets firm again. I'm leaning towards possibly either one of my buddies said a ballooned brake line, which I don't think that's what it is.
No.
I think maybe possibly a master cylinder.
Yeah, with what you're describing, it sounds like either a master cylinder or one of the front wheel cylinders, or even the rear are the calipers on them. If the slides are sticking on them, that's what'll happen. You'll step on it and you'll have to hit it a couple times, and then it'll work, and the brakes will be fine and they'll hold. If you can pump it twice and then hold it, and it doesn't go down, and the brakes actually work and stop, it's more than likely one of those caliper slides. But if you pump it a couple times and hold it, and then it still starts to sink down, that's leaning towards the hydraulics in your master cylinder.
Is there any reason to not do the whole thing?
Money.
Inspect everything. Yeah, inspect everything and replace the failed part. But I'm really leaning towards those caliper slides, and they're easy to obtain.
Ryan, thanks very much for the call. That'll do it for this hour of the Under the Hood Show. The Under the Hood Show is brought to you by Sturdivants. Hour 2 is coming up.
Be sure to visit our website for news, contests, and previous shows at underthehoodshow.com. Welcome back, everybody. It's time to get back under the hood with the Motor Medics.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. Russ Evans is here to answer your automotive questions.
Thanks for joining us under the hood.
Shannon Nordstrom is here to do the same.
Welcome, hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
I'm Chris Carter here to answer your calls at 866-594-4150. Let's go to Indiana right away and talk to Steve. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Steve, what can we do for you?
Well, I've got a son who's got a 91 Dodge D150 with a 315 V8. He's got about a 2-hour drive going to school and back, going to college. And last week when we had that extreme cold spell, he said it was really cold driving back. I assumed it was just leaking through the doors. It was just kind of cool. But after talking to him, he said, no, it was really cold. He had on his snowsuit and everything else trying to stay warm. So we put a new thermostat in it. He drove back to college, and he said, well, it warms up better, but then all of a sudden it gets cold again and stays real cold. And I guess I was just curious, is that just the thermostat opening up and letting that 0-degree water or coolant into the engine and cools it down right away?
Yeah, it sounds to me like you've got a thermostat issue going on in that the heater core could be starting to get restricted inside and corroding in there. That's a possibility too. We need to find out what is the engine temperature, but if it can't meet its regulating temperature, then you're going to lose that heat. But if you get heat sometimes and then you don't, like if it sits in idles for a long time and you start getting heat inside, that is telling me that the heater core can do its job. But when you go on the road, you've got wind chill going on there, so you're going to be removing that heat faster, and that can be either from a core that's not efficient enough, or it can also be that the thermostat is open, so you're going down the road and now the wind blowing through is cooling down that radiator. So you watch your temperature gauge on does it have a temperature gauge, or has it got the D150 with just a light?
It's got the temperature gauge, and he said it does go up. And we did put on a new thermostat last week.
Okay. When it's up, do you have heat?
Yes. He does get heat through the heater core.
I wonder, is it possible that he's got a fresh air vent stuck open and it just, he'd still be feeling some heat, but I mean, to bring in just like blowing cold air right into the vehicle?
Does that temp gauge drop when he starts driving down the road?
It does drop. He says that the temp gauge will go up, I don't know how much, but it'll go up, and then all of a sudden it'll drop, and then it stays kind of cold after that.
Okay, if it goes up when it's idling and gets warmed up, and then he goes down the road and it falls and stays down low until he stops again and it runs for a while, that's an indication the thermostat is not working like it's supposed to, and it may just be a poor quality thermostat that's causing that issue on that. So,
well, I have been accused of buying the cheap stuff before, so.
Well, and there's a slight difference between a good quality thermostat and a cheap quality thermostat. When you purchase them, you want to make sure that you get a decent one. I would say there's probably a $3 difference between a really good quality thermostat and a poor quality thermostat. So I would really look into that and see. I'd probably start with changing the thermostat, upgrading that.
I have a couple of questions that I have to ask. So this 91 D150 that he's driving to college, he's got to be the coolest kid on campus.
Yeah.
So is this a family heirloom type thing, or is it something that he bought with his work money, or why has he got a 91 D150 going to college?
Well, I had a long-term customer. I'm in construction. I've done several jobs for him over the years, and this thing sat at his house over a number of 5 to 6 years that I worked there off and on. And I always mentioned to him, if you ever want to get rid of it, let me know. I got a son coming up of age, and it'd be a great first car. That guy was pretty attached to it, and the last time I went there to do a job, his wife brought up that he was thinking about getting rid of it. So yeah, we got it for a good price and fixed it up together. We replaced all the brakes, the brake lines, all that stuff you do to a vehicle that's sat, and had it repainted real nice. And yeah, he thinks it's a really cool vehicle and one he wants to keep for a long, long time.
That's fun. And so yeah, 318 V8 and a 2-wheel drive D150 Dodge truck. Is it a long box 8-foot?
It's a long box 8-foot standard cab. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this would classify as a Berkeley Classic. Now, if he was driving it daily, they probably wouldn't want to do that. They do have some provisions, in the driving thing, but you can check with Berkeley on that. He said he repainted it, guys. Now we're going to leave it at that.
Okay.
So what color is it now is what we are going to guess.
Okay.
What color it is now. And I'm thinking that he liked it. He thought it was cool. They probably repainted it the original color, and that original color is probably gold.
Gold? I'm going to say the reddish orange.
It's black.
Black. All right. What color is it?
Well, originally it was a silver color with the blue insert along the side, but my boy really likes the white, and then he added black along the lower level of it.
Okay.
So he did not paint it the original
No,
color.
that's good. I like that.
I did.
All right. There you go.
And we were not right.
We're not right at all. You got one. You got half. You get a half on that one too. Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And silver's not gold, so I can't claim anything.
866-594-4150. Steve, thanks very much for the call. Let's talk to Caleb. You're on the Under the Hood show. Caleb, what can we do for you?
Thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
2006 Toyota Scion. Just picked it up, added it to the fleet for a new driver. Got it from a friend of mine, very well maintained, an aircraft mechanic. The issue is squealing when it first starts up. Goes away every time, but it's intermittent. And he said it's been going on like that for a while, and he says it's getting worse. He made me a price on it, so I couldn't complain, but I'm just wondering how I go about troubleshooting that. And I guess it's doesn't have the spring-loaded tensioner. You got to manually do it with a pry bar or something.
Right. Yeah, it's got a
So,
adjuster on it.
yes, sir.
Yeah, you've got an adjuster on it.
Belt, yeah.
You loosen the nut, and then you turn a bolt, which moves the adjuster to get it where you want it to be. And the proper tension on that is tension so the longest portion of the belt that you can see, let's say there's a spot between the idler and the lower balancer that's 4 inches, it's not there. Then you got one between the idler and the alternator that's 6 inches, it's not there. And then you got a longer one between, say, the alternator on down that's like a 12 inches. Now that'd be the longest spot. So wherever the longest spot is, when you get it properly tensioned, you should be able to turn the belt 90 degrees. Just or Pat, you should be able to turn it when you not 90 degrees, 180. So you're turning it halfway. If you can turn it more
Upside
than
down.
halfway, it's too loose. If it's less than that, it's too tight. So it'll cause wear on the parts and premature squeaking if it's too tight. If it's too little, the best way to do it is with a tension gauge, but nobody has that. They only ask that question on the ASE test. Did you use the proper tension? No, I twisted the belt to make sure it wasn't too tight. Same way with timing belts. Otherwise, they'll howl and stuff. So, yeah, you want to get that tension right. But you can buy a complete belt component kit for most every car now, and it's going to include the belt and whatever rolls with the bearing. So in your case, that little idler pulley that applies the tension has a bearing in it, so it'll have those too. But it's very common on those little cars to have a squeak in that idler, and you get a little contamination on those pulleys, and that translates over into the belt. So you get a little bit of rust that you really can't even see. Sometimes it's on the belt and the pulley. But I would replace it as a complete set. You buy the component kit, put it on. Take a rag with some carburetor cleaner on it and wipe off all the pulleys that are left, like the alternator, power steering, the balancer, just to make sure they're good and clean before you put the new components on, and you're fixed up.
And if you want to confirm that that's where the noise is coming from, it should be, you can just start it up briefly with the belt off and still see if you still have that noise. If you do, then we got to check a few other things.
Right. Caleb, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Josh in North Carolina. Josh, you're on the Under the Hood show. What can we do for you?
Hey, guys. Hope everyone's well. Thanks for taking my call. So 2004 Toyota Avalon. Bought the car with about 45,000 miles on it. But 6 years old. So that would have been 2010. And ever since I've owned the car, it does this odd flickering of the lights, including the flashlight, headlight, map light. And it seems to be more pronounced when it's cold. I've had multiple different batteries in the car since I've owned it. And also had to replace an alternator due to a bearing going out. So I'm assuming that would not be either one of the problems because it did it before and after. I've tried checking voltage from the positive battery to the connection on the alternator. It reads about 125 millivolts, and then the ground doing the same thing to the housing of the alternator reads like, something like 25 millivolts, not much at all. So I don't, and grounds and everything look good. I can't find any kind of obvious problem. Not sure if you guys have ever run into that.
Yeah, we have, and one of the first step we do is we're going to put a voltmeter on battery voltage, and we're going to measure the voltage at the battery. Have you done that to see, does it fluctuate at all? Does that battery voltage fluctuate up and down when those lights are flickering?
I don't believe so. I believe I did check that, and it was good.
Because if
it's pretty steady at
if
like
it's
14 something.
Okay, if it's really steady, like within just a couple millivolts right there, and your headlights are flickering, then you need to measure it at the headlights and see what that is. Because for lights to go up and down, they have to be fluctuating voltage. Typically, it's in the alternator, and then it gets worse as it goes all the way out to the lights with some voltage drops. But it can be in the lighting circuit. It can be the headlight switch running through there. It could be relays and anything going on in there, or even burnt wiring in those headlights. That's usually the last thing we see. But
is the 04 like Oscar's?
Just like yours.
It has a lot going on. At
yeah,
that
it's
headlight.
got a lot going on with the daytime running light relay circuit and everything. And if those relays are burned,
all sorts of stuff in there.
Yep, all sorts of stuff. But the most common is the alternator, and a lot of times it's the quality of the alternator. There's alternators out there that are all fair price, but they're not all built the same. So a good quality alternator is important in that vehicle. So that's why I would double check that voltage on that thing. And sometimes we even use the old analog meter with the needle so we can watch it swing, because that'll swing more like a headlight than a digital one. Sometimes the digital ones are buffered where they don't change as fast.
Josh, we're going to take a break. You stay right where you are. I know you have a second question, so you stay there. We're going to take a break. 866-594-4150. You're listening to the Under the Hood Show. We'll be right back.
Make a radio appointment each week to hear the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. Josh, did you have another question?
Yes, sir. Two questions about the same type of vehicle. So the second question is about a M151 Jeep. Well, it's actually a vehicle built off of the drivetrain components of an old M151 Jeep. But doing some reading, it recommends a GL1 fluid for both the transmission and differentials. And I was wondering if you guys have any information about using like a GL4 or GL5, because I've read that those can deteriorate like yellow metal, but wasn't sure if, now with all the technology and fluids and everything, if that's even a thing anymore.
I don't think it's a problem, because the readily available fluids are going to be GL4s, GL5s, fully synthetics, things like that in there. In that Jeep running that slow a speed, I'm not going to run a fully synthetic in there probably, because I don't want to try to get any leaks that I don't really necessarily have to have. I want something that's a little older and a little thicker and not as smooth. And that's what I do. Now I would get on the Jeep forums. There's a lot of them for these vehicles, and see what people are using themselves that they have over time, because a lot of these are going to be ones that have not really, they don't drive them that much. They're not daily drivers anyways in almost every case. So there's going to be people that are going to say, I've run this fluid in there for the last 20 years and it's never leaked and never worn anything out. Well, that's the kind of stuff you're looking for.
Yeah, it seems to be the opinions on those forums are kind of half and half. How you guys felt about it.
You got to read a lot. You got to read a lot of the opinions to find out, to weed out who knows what they're talking about, who doesn't. I find a lot of those forums where people, they're commenting on stuff that they don't even own. They'll say, like you're on this Jeep forum, and they'll say, well, my old F-250 Ford is a 74, and, well, I've run that forever, and I've never had a problem with that. It's not a Jeep. It's not what we're talking about. I was on the Model T forum a couple months ago, and somebody was talking about their Edsel, which is not the same engine in any way or form. We're talking about a Ford Babbitt engine in a Model T and they're talking about what oil they like to use in their vehicle. I'm like, no, that won't work. And they quickly got shut down by a bunch of people, but they're still posting stuff. So you really got to read and see. But you'll find there'll be people on those forums and they'll say moderator and 25 years in the vehicles they own, and you'll be able to tell which ones are legitimate and which ones are not. And YouTube comes out with there's some people that will give, if you watch something that you can quickly see if somebody knows what they're talking about, they own the vehicle, it's probably there with them in the vehicle, it's theirs, and they'll give you the right opinion. And that's the way I use a lot of information to gather what I need to make my one decision on what I'm going to use.
Careful of moderator though, because he might have started that whole thing just because he didn't like the answers he was.
Sometimes I just keep reading until somebody agrees with what I thought, so I know I'm right.
Yeah. That's it. This guy's an Edsel. It's probably that's what I thought too. Josh, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. Let's go to Tennessee and talk to Jimmy. You're on the End of the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Well, I got a 2016 F-150 V6 XLT. About 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, the battery started going down, and the battery's 2 years old. And I noticed it didn't spin it like it should, so I checked it, and it was at 12.4. Okay, if I set it overnight, it'd go all the way down to 12. Okay, I've done that 2 or 3 days, so then I took the cables off with it fully charged, and the next morning it's still up. So it's sucking power from somewhere. It's at Ford now. They've had it 2 weeks. They just now went to work on it today. The video that I watched online showed the same problem, and the guy found the alternator was still pulling current. He put a meter on the lines, and it was still pulling current. I've told them that over there, and the same time when I talked to Ford the first time, they said they was having trouble with the button on the dash that stops you at the red lights, and you push the button and you don't stop. They're doing that, but he told me this morning that they were checking the fuses, and he said there was 27 of them, and he'd checked 7 of them, hadn't found a problem. I don't have any, I have a clue, but that's why I heard y'all this down, so I'm going to give you a call and see if you know something about this.
A current drain issue on this model Ford is not real common.
Okay.
But it can happen. Any vehicle can get it, and it can be any number of things. Yeah. If it can be either induced by water getting into the vehicle, into a module and causing problems, or jump starting one, or jump starting another car, or anything can happen where you get damage to a module and just parts failure. One of the common issues of all vehicles is an alternator that is not releasing. When you shut it off, it's draining current instead of charging. It charges when it operates, but it discharges when it shuts down. So that is a possibility, and that's the easiest of all the systems to find if there's a problem with, because you put that amp meter in line with your battery and you read it, and if it's pulling 400 or 500 millivolts, you just unplug the alternator. If it goes away, there's your problem. It's fixed. Got to replace that alternator. But in their case, hopefully they've started with the easy things like the alternator. They're pulling one fuse at a time. And when you pull one fuse at a time, you have to watch the meter, pull the fuse, see if there's any change, then put the fuse back in, and then wait for the systems to all go to sleep and go dead again, which can take 10, 15 minutes. Then you pull the next one and go. So this is a very slow process. And some shops will charge you by the hour for the total job. They charge you to pull the fuse, to put it back in, and they charge you to wait the 10, 15 minutes till they pull the next one. Other shops, like with us, I'm going to pull that fuse, I'm going to put it back in and say, yep, thing's alive again, and I'm going to go to work on the car next to it, and I'm going to keep working. Then I'm going to go over and I'm going to pull another one, and I'm going to say, okay, checking all 27 fuses here, took me an hour. I'm going to bill them an hour for that instead of the 5 hours that it actually took, because it really didn't take that long, because I'm not sitting there playing on my phone, looking at Facebook and watching the Hood Show on YouTube videos. Should be, though. That
I was thinking, I wish I had that job. I would just sit there and watch videos the whole
Chris, you're the fuse puller.
Yeah.
So you do that until you find the system that's causing it.
Pull!
And
I hit
could
the
be-
brake pedal. Sorry, we got to start over.
Yeah, you do. And the doors have to be open, but the latch is locked so that they're not turning on door ajar lights and dome lights. You can't cycle
I got to
the
get
key.
back at the Toyota again. I never have found it yet. It's still sitting in the garage. Get back after it.
It is. It can be very tedious to try to find out which circuit it is. Now, the first thing that's the most important we find on these is going to be that alternator, and then we go right to the radio and unplug it in the dash. We just disconnect all the connectors from it because that's the second thing we have on these trucks that if there's ever a drain. So I would address those two areas first. Hopefully they've got some experience with it because it's a Ford dealership. They should know what they're doing, right?
You would hope.
Yep.
Jimmy, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to talk to you.
Car feeling ill? Don't want to spread it to your wallet? Call the Motor Medics now for free advice.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. You can watch the show on our YouTube channel, and if you subscribe and join the Hoodie Fan Club at underthehoodshow.com, you could win a hoodie.
Like James Costello, congratulations from all of us here at the Under the Hood Show.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and our friends over at Universal Technical Institute. You can find them at uti.edu.
Are they going to learn, if they're at a warm weather campus, how to fix cars in cold weather?
Yes, but not hands-on.
Yeah.
They won't be able to walk out and go, ooh, burr, it's 10 degrees, let's fix it. But
they won't know how to do it in the cold.
I did not ask them if they have a cold weather simulator. That's going to be a great question. I should talk to Mr. Dodson and ask them, do they have a cold, because some places do have cold weather. It's a refrigerator.
Sure.
Or freezer. A big deep freeze you drive the car into and you park it, and then it's like, here you go. You get to, it's 0 out or 10 below 0, fix the car. Then the kids have to have, or the adults, they have to have parkas and things.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, hey, General Tire gave you and I parkas to wear when we went
That's right.
snowmobiling. Maybe UTI gives you a parkas for the freezer. I don't know.
I would just skip it. I'd say, I don't want to learn it. I'm not going back. That's what I would do.
I'm not going to live anywhere where there's cold cars,
Nope.
so don't have to worry about it. It's like, what about the cold snap coming, right?
866-594-4150. Let's talk to Craig. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Craig, what can we do for you?
Hello. Glad to be. Love your show, you guys.
Thanks.
So I got a question. I know you said that on all the diesel vehicles and stuff, you should add an additive to the fuel system every tank full.
Yes.
And I was curious with my heavy equipment that I run dyed fuel in, is that the same?
Yes. We have a gentleman that buys the
Okay.
Justice Brothers fuel additive from us, both the summer additive and the winter anti-gel, in 5-gallon cans. He comes to us and he buys that so he can run it in all his, he does directional boring underground, and he runs it in all his boring machines that run the dyed fuel, and then he runs it in his over-the-road trucks that use non-dyed fuel.
Is he putting it in his tank, his bulk tank, or is he putting it in as he...
He's putting it in his machines, and his trailers have big tanks on them to refuel, and he mixes it in the big tank as he does it.
Okay.
Not in
Yeah.
his big home tank, but on the trailer tanks as he goes, so he's got it. That's why he gets the 5 gallons at a time. It's cheaper that way,
and
too.
we've done the same thing, and then also like one of our fuel suppliers, the main one we use for our diesel here is Midway Filling Station locally. Bruce, him and I grew up together, but they have a system they offer also where they will put a package. There's a fuel they'll deliver with a package in it, and has been successful for him to be able to have that already pre-mixed into what you're buying. It costs a few more pennies here and there, but it's got some of that mixed in there, and we'll still put some of the Justice Brothers in extreme conditions. But you need
Cold
that
as it
extra,
gets.
you need that extra lubricity in there, and just to be able to help give that extra safeguard to all the components in that fuel system are so expensive anymore. The injectors and the pumps and you name it, everything is expensive, and triple that when you get into heavy equipment.
Yeah. And if you run straight number 1 fuel in there without the waxes and you are super dry. You're asking to burn something up. So
you need lubricity.
If it's cold, absolutely it's like extreme danger. You have to have an additive in that
There you
fuel.
go. Craig, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. And for those who don't know, like when we talked about this recently and you were talking about the every tank additives, and as someone who's never been concerned with that once, I had the thought, well, where do you find, I don't know if you, and then I went to the store the other day, to the farm store, and I thought, I wonder if I can, let me see where the diesel additive is. Let me see if I can,
it wasn't hard to find.
It's this whole entire side of the aisle, and I can get it in 50 different size. There were 5 gallons, there were 1 gallons, there were
colorful too.
Yeah, it was, once I opened my diesel eyes, it was everywhere, and it was easy to see what each thing was. It really was, it wasn't a mystery at all.
Go to a truck stop, Chris. It's like there's as many. You think mechanics have opinion?
I get too distracted. I don't get back to the diesel stuff. I end up looking at CVs and funny hats.
The mirrors. And
yeah.
Do you get lost in that section?
I love
I walk through it every time I go in a truck stop.
I love
to see if they're still the same gadgets from 1970.
GPS
or
units.
If they've updated them, though. They've got there's lots of cool stuff
antennas.
there.
I love tacky gift shops and everything like that. So when I go to a truck stop, I'm like, oh, let's go check out the knives.
Stuckies. The old Stuckies.
Yeah, I'm
Get yourself a nut roll and a
how many things
GPS.
are American Eagle shaped in here?
Who else walks through the automotive section at a Dollar General, just even if you don't need anything, just to see what they have
See
there?
what's going on, yeah.
I look to see how much oil is. So when somebody says, you're getting how much for a quart of oil? I can get it at... You can, because mine's actually a little bit less.
866-594-4150. Let's talk to JR in Minnesota. JR, you're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Yes, hi. I've got, 3 quick questions about engines on a 2010 Dodge Dakota. It's a Bighorn edition with 120,000 miles. It says, the badge says it's a Magnum V8, and then the owner says it's a 4-speed transmission. The question I have, is Magnum just a badge name, or does that indicate engine size?
Magnum was a trade name that Chrysler applied to their V8 engines in an era.
Okay.
So they called them Magnum V8s for marketing purposes, and it was from 92 to 99 or something like that.
That just brought me back. A vision just popped in my head of a 70s Dodge Magnum car. You remember those?
Yeah.
That was the Cordoba, right?
Yeah,
Cordoba Magnum.
Chrysler's always been really good about bringing back good old names.
I can't remember. It was the same platform, but the Cordoba and the Magnum, 2 separate cars, but they were the same body class, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Just different front ends on them. One had the round and the Magnum.
I got my era wrong there, but that's the point. It was during an era of marketing that they called them Magnum engines.
Doesn't necessarily mean anything.
They were Magnums until they put the Hemi out.
I was thinking, though, with the carbureted engine, that Dodge Magnum, I think, had a Magnum labeled air cleaner on it, and then some of the trucks had that too.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, so it went back a ways.
So there's one question we've answered, but maybe not with exact facts on what years, but that was a marketing package for their V8s.
Okay, that's what I needed to know. On that V8, now I'm not sure that the elderly owner says of course, he and I are in that same era of cubic inch rather than liters, so he doesn't know what the liters is. He's guessing it's a 318. I don't know. But the question is on that, the spark plugs have never been removed in 120,000 miles. If I buy it, I'm going to have to remove them. Am I going to face any head damage issues removing those, and what's the best way to take them out?
They should screw right out more than likely in that. With a cast iron head on that engine, they should just typically they'll come out. Unless they're super carboned up from a lot of slow speed driving and poor fuel quality and things like that, more than likely they're going to come out. Now, if you try to take them out and they don't come out, then I would say don't take them out. Like if you turn them and they come out 2 turns and then they stick and it won't come out, put them back in. As long as it's running good, leave them, because then you're going to have an issue. Or you could try to work them back and forth a little bit. I just don't like messing with them too much when they get carbon buildup on them like that on that old. And then the cubic inches, the 318 was the 5.2 and the 360 was the 5.7 in the Dodge line.
5.9.
5.9 in the
Dodge line.
Dodge line, yeah.
Yep.
5.7 is 350.
You got that one.
In a Chevy.
The 5.2 was what CID?
318.
318.
So
Okay,
that was
all
that
right, okay.
tried and true 318 cubic inch. It's still the same block configuration and everything that goes clear back to whenever they started that thing in the 60s.
Yeah, for that V8 engine.
Do you have another question there, JR?
One very quick. Any special issues I should look for in terms of problems with the engine or the transmission on this style vehicle? I know it's getting back there a ways.
It's a pretty tough engine. It really, if you kept it in tune, it will last a very long time.
Does it have an overdrive button on the dash?
You know, I'm just going to look at it for the first time this afternoon, but I will look for that.
If it has an overdrive button on the dash, I think it's what they call an A500 transmission, and they were prone to have a failure with the overdrive unit in time, so I would recommend a fluid change on that. If the fluid looks like it's in good shape, it'd be good just to get some fresh fluid in there and inspect that transmission would be my weakest point of that vehicle based on things that were replaced when they were more popular and there was more of them going. But
and maybe he'll say, yeah, we fixed that. Here's the...
Not a chronic problem, but it's something I'd be aware of if it's got that overdrive transmission.
JR, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Jim. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Jim, what can we do for you?
Hey, about a week ago on my 2012, the oil pressure went zero, so I figured that all out. It's a bitch to change. And I got that done. Now my charging this week while I'm driving it is over at 15 volts. And now that I'm talking to you, I'm sitting in my truck. Now it's going down to 13, but for the last week, it's stayed on 15, and I've been checking it with my charger. So does that mean my alternator is probably on its way out, or what?
It could be, because the engine computer controls the charging voltage and amperage of that. So it'll try to regulate it as best as it can. And if it's a true, you need to be reading it with like a voltmeter at the battery to see exactly what it is, because that dash gauge can be off by a half a volt or 1 volt even easily. So, watch it, but there'll be times where that thing will try to charge at 14.6 volts, and there'll be times where it'll be charging at 12.5 volts, and it tries to maintain in there as needed. It knows what the strategy is that it needs to be at. So it doesn't surprise me if I see the gauge anywhere from, as long as I see it above 12.5 and I see it below 15, I'm not worried in that range on the gauge typically.
Okay.
But I'll measure it. But if it gets to where it can't control it and it gets way out of its range, it should turn the check engine light on, because it'll say, hey, I'm trying to charge it 14.5 volts and I got 16 volts coming into this thing. What's going on? And it'll turn that light on. And when that happens, it's usually an alternator failure.
I had the meter on it, and it's staying right at 15. And now, so I just been driving it every day. I live about 6 miles out of town. And today is the first day it came off 15 and went all the way back to where it normally goes. Back on it's like it's all charged up now, but I don't like that. I know that.
No.
It's 153,000 on it.
Could be an alternator starting to go.
Battery's a year and a half old. I load tested the battery, and the battery says it's okay, but that doesn't mean there. After that cold spell, there's lucky anything works.
Exactly.
Exactly. Jim, thanks very much for the call. 866-594-4150. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show. 866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. Let's talk to Matt. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Matt, what can we do for you?
Got a 2003 Chevy Tahoe. The radio just stopped working, but it shows you can change channels. There's just no sound coming out of the system.
Get rid of it.
And the OnStar doesn't work. No.
Yeah, no. If you don't have a radio, you gotta get rid of it. Can you plug it? Does any sound on it work? If you use something else, can you?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. There's nothing. The OnStar will not work, and
shouldn't.
Of course, I let another guy drive it for a few days, and it came back with the radio not working.
It's not his fault.
I kind of blamed it on him, but
yeah,
when
it's
did
fun
you try
to do that, but
when did you try the OnStar and figure out that it wasn't working?
right away.
right away after when it happened.
Had you been using it in the past?
No, I mean you could hit the button and then it go through its, even though it wasn't connected to OnStar anymore, it would go through its cycle of trying to call OnStar, and it'd give you its recorded message that it had in there.
Because that doesn't work anymore.
But
it'll talk to you,
Nope.
but OnStar doesn't work because they changed the system.
They went to a digital system.
Yeah, but I see where you're going. So you push that. That's your audio, and that audio is being broadcast through the radio. Typically, those with the OnStar in them, the OnStar and the radios, you could have separate amp or not separate amp. And it's usually labeled on the radio as if it's got a Bose system, it definitely has separate amplifier.
Yes.
It does?
Probably got a bad amplifier, possibly.
Probably got a bad amp then, because your OnStar is going to feed into the amp and the radio feeds into the OnStar, because that's how it interrupts the radio signal in order to play through there. So I'm guessing the amp's bad.
The amp is located in the center console, and they could fail. I mean, we've sold them for years.
Do we still have those consoles?
Sold most of the ones that had amps in them.
Well, we had so many.
Well, I shouldn't say we sold them. We removed the amps because they were worth more than the consoles.
And crushed the console.
Kept the console lids, put them on eBay, and away we go.
That's what I was wondering, because at one time we had like a couple hundred.
There is still a bunch of 05 consoles over there, and if I remember right, they don't have amps in them, or else they'd be gone already probably. But that's most likely the problem, is the radio amplifier itself.
Is that something I can bring to a stereo shop and have them?
You could find
figure it out?
If you're mechanical, you could find a YouTube video of how to take the console out, and there's going to be a bunch of them out there because this thing's been around for a little bit. And then you could pick up another amplifier from a certified auto recycler. Go to Cardash Part if you don't know where to look, and just look up radio amplifier.
You just told them they're super valuable though, and they're expensive.
They've went. At one time, I think we were getting $250 for them, and I think they're probably down more. They bring $50 to $100 now.
Yeah, 50 to 100 now is more
they've
reasonable.
dropped down quite a bit. But that's why we were tearing the consoles apart, because the amps were worth more than the consoles.
Yeah, so
Matt
super
had
value,
the
if you got 100
appropriate
of them.
reaction there on the cost.
Yeah. Whoa.
But now,
But
Russ,
when it's 20 below zero, it starts. That's the thing.
yeah.
That's true. If you get it, if a vehicle starts when it's that cold, that's a good thing.
So, but just to be clear, though, just to make sure that OnStar doesn't work, radio doesn't work. You put a CD in there, a CD doesn't work. You don't hear a noise.
It plays, but it doesn't.
No noise out of anything. But everything
What's
operates.
a CD?
Yeah. So
that's correct.
That sure sounds like the amplifier.
Is there anything else going through that? Doorbells or
Yeah,
door
when
dings,
you when you've got the key in the ignition, you open the door. It's probably not chiming anymore, is it? Ding, 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 ding.
No, that's right.
Okay.
No chimes.
That's it.
All through the amplifier.
You can get a Bluetooth speaker and drive around with that for a year and a half. I don't recommend it, but
Done it.
I did it. Yeah. Matt, thanks very much for the call. 866-594-4150. We have been talking about, we talked about this in the past, but what do you think as when we talk about electric cars and we're going to do it, we're not going to do that whole thing. Is there what do you think the future holds? Just a ballpark, like in 2008, 2010, we were talking about cash for clunkers, right?
Yep.
Gas prices were high. People were getting upside down to get out of their Escalades and their SUVs.
Just their trucks and their soup. Yeah.
And then now here we are 15 years later, and there's no cars left. Everything's an SUV or a crossover.
Right. They changed a lot.
And where do you think, crystal ball, what's it going to be in 15 years? Let's go in 15-year increments. Is there any chance? I mean, what?
Overall, I really think we're going to see just generally automation and cars, vehicles, and the way a lot of things are done. We're going to see a giant change. They're working really hard on some faster mass transit. We're the only major country that doesn't have a bullet train yet. In the United States, we don't have, and we should in certain areas to get people from here to there. It just, because when I say we should from an economic standpoint. You can move people faster and cheaper, and goods, like you can move freight from New York to California on a train like that quicker. We don't have that. With cars, there's not enough. There is a enormous amount of infrastructure for electric cars, but not enough. It's just a tiny little blip of what we need. We need so much more, but we need people to do that, to build it. We need materials, a lot of money to build it. So it'll come, it'll get here. It needs to be a blend. I think there'll be more research into cars using alternative fuels, whether it be ethanol or hydrogen, things that they can immediately get into cars. But we're going to see a big change. I've been watching. Tesla is introducing several new models this year that will be lower priced. And for somebody that lives in a smaller city that is able to charge at home and doesn't worry about big infrastructure and the thousands of watts it takes to charge a car because they're only driving 5 miles a day, they love these things. You go to a big city. Shannon just spoke this morning. We had a meeting, and he was telling people he just took a trip. Here, we've got our first Tesla coming in to be torn down, that we've had rebuilders, but this is to be torn down. He goes to a yard in Washington, D.C., where they've got probably hundreds of cars that have come through their system because they're in a small town. And when I say small, a compact area.
Right. Densely populated metro area.
Yeah, where they're driving a mile to 5 miles to work. They come home, they plug their car in, and their simple outlet on their wall is sufficient to charge their car over, and even driving around in Nissan Leafs, which are horrible for electric. You charge those and they go like 40 miles, but they're using them because they're tiny and they can get them around.
Continued blending of electric will hit 25% in kind of plateau.
Yeah.
And I think that you're talking 15 years, maybe a little higher. I'm probably completely wrong on this, but I think you're going to see a resurgence and a renaissance of hybrids that will stay.
Yep.
Sure.
They are developing more hybrids.
With the new electric technology they've learned from electric integrated with hybrids, I think you're going to see, Toyota just doubled down. If you watch all with hybrids, I think you're going to see, Toyota just doubled down. If you watch all their marketing, it just all went really hybrid in the last 6 months.
They're even showing flex fuel hybrids and diesel powered hybrids, which is going to be, I wonder how the diesels are going to work because of the cold weather and things like that. There got to be some testing going on there. I'm not sure, but they're smart, and these factories now, they've got, it's crazy. They can do all sorts of stuff. We'll talk more, I'm sure, on the after show about it. But if you are interested in what we talk about when we're not on the air answering your calls, get on YouTube and watch our after show. If you don't watch the rest of the show, the rest of the show is a repeat of what we already did. But the after show, we got all sorts of crazy stuff, and we're going to be posting some content from our very old shows, going back a long way, and we're going to ask you to get on there and guess what year. Put in the comments what year you think that segment came from, because today we answered a call about a Grand National.
Right.
Now, that 84 Grand National, that call, could it have been taken 30 years ago or was it taken today? But you can definitely tell, even our voices, you could tell how much younger we were, and just the tone, the way you answered calls, Chris, is amazing.
All right, we got some calls coming in. This is the after show. Thanks for joining us on the after show. Let's go here and talk to Everett. Let's go to Wisconsin and talk to Everett. You're on the Under the Hood show. Everett, what can we do for you?
Yeah, good morning. Yeah, I got a 2020 Chrysler Pacifica, and my ESS light, warning light came on, so that the stop-start function is not working. And I did some research, and I found out I had a little battery in there, only 200 cranking amps. That the main function was to restart the engine at the stop sign. So, and then it powered up a few other things as you were sitting there with the engine off, like the radio and interior lights. But I lifted the, I thought, well, if that's all it does, we don't really need it. So I lifted the ground off, the neutral off that little battery, and everything is working except, it's not going into the start-stop mode, which is fine with me. But I still get that little indicator light, but that doesn't bother me. I'm wondering if I can hurt anything that way.
Well, yeah, that battery is charged by the main charging system, and without it connected, it can get confused and some weird things can happen because it needs to see that load there at all times. I'm surprised it works without it connected. I've seen most of the time people just replace that battery when it goes bad, and a lot of people don't like that stop-start, but yeah, it's built right in, hardwired into the system. It's meant to be there and be charged.
But right now, the biggest thing for me would be, even if everything's working, your check engine light, or well, it's not a check engine light. It's the
electronic start-stop light.
That stop light. Does that indicate anything else, Russ? Is that, could there be another system that would bury?
That should be all of it. Is that system shuts down? I'm not aware of anything else other than the only thing that concerns me is the charging. If that thing is trying to charge and it's not.
How long have you had it disconnected?
Oh, about 3 weeks.
Well, you should have known by now.
Yeah, exactly.
With it disconnected, it may have the we haven't done that because we don't disable systems like that are supposed to be running, but it may have the strategy in it where when that light comes on, it stops charging that battery. It may just shut off and not charge, which would be fine. Maybe it just goes off, and then you could, subscribe to Chris Carter's school of get a bigger Band-Aid to go over. The round ones fit right nice over those lights.
I would monitor your other systems to make sure you're not having any other problems, and I would subscribe to the Chris Carter method here too, that if it's not causing you any problems, run it that way until you notice it does, but then do not forget that you have that disconnected if you have other system problems, because when they start diagnosing it, it could come into play.
Yeah, for sure. Everett, thanks very much for the call. Good luck.
That little AGM battery, Chris, I think it's like $235
for the 12 volt there
for the stop-start battery.
Okay. Oh,
and some of them use a little lithium-ion battery in there too.
We put a battery in a Trax this week, and it was yay big. Are you watching on YouTube? See how small? I'm talking like this big. It was $245.
That's a lot.
Like the size of a scooter battery.
Yep. And then we put a battery in a Honda CRV. It was an AGM, and it was a tiny one. And that little tiny battery was like $246. And then we put a big battery in a Mercedes, a really big one. It was also AGM. It was $165. You know what that is? That's called somebody making more profit than they should. But but the big battery, and they're all AGMs. And the big battery was the cheapest.
Maybe they make a lot more of the big ones. And by scale, they can bring the cost down.
That could be.
I don't know, but batteries are not cheap anymore, but they do last. They're strong.
Let's go to Iowa and talk to Dean. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Dean, what can we do for you?
Hey, I got a 2017 Ford Fusion. Got it about 3 or 4 months ago. And 2 months after we got it or so, I took it on icy road, and it's kind of patchy ice here and there. And it seems like whenever I hit the ice, the back end shifts over like 2 inches and gets all squirrely. Scares the crap out of you. Wondering what you think.
Typically, when a vehicle has its own behavior that you have not given steering wheel input or anything, and it starts moving on its own, suspension alignment is typically what it is. Rear suspension alignment. Something is not quite proper in that back.
Because I did bring it in and got it aligned. And he said the rear was off a little bit and the front. He got it all aligned. And then last week, coming home from Sioux Falls, and it did it again. Seems like whenever you hit a little patch of ice, the back end's moving over, it feels like. And this morning, my wife called me again, and it really wasn't that icy. And if it was all ice.
Chris would beg to differ.
Yeah.
Chris would beg to differ
again and pulling her over.
Yeah,
I would not judge anything off of if you're local here today, because my 4-wheel drive truck, it decided to crab walk on me all of a sudden, not even going that fast.
Yeah, I was driving the dually, and I was all over where I thought I should be straight. I was better on the hills and the weird places and the curves than the straight areas. I was like, whoa, I'm starting to go sideways here.
Now, if alignment is truly aligned, and everything else is proper on that vehicle as far as sway bars and things like that, then we get into tires.
And the tires could have been fine, but because it was out of line for a period of time, they could have got a wear pattern in them that now with the proper alignment is going to make it drive off to one side. I've seen that. We had a Grand Am we were trying to figure this out forever, and they came in and I measured it, and I said, this car is out of line. And they went in and had it aligned, and it still did it, but differently. And they were all mad. They're like, well, you said it was out of line. It's like, well, it was, and the alignment shop said it was out of a line. I said, I think your tires need to be replaced. Well, that's not going to fix it. I'm like, well, how do you know? And then I asked him, I said, how long has it been doing this? Well, it's been pulling to one side like that for like 2 years. Okay, well, these tires let's try it. So we ended up putting tires from a different car on there, and it stopped doing it. So then he bought some new tires, but it took us forever to try to figure it out and convince him that that's what it was.
Yeah, because it had pretty good tires on it when we got it like 4 months ago. So I can't imagine the tires are worn that bad. You
can try rotating them. Try putting the fronts on the back.
Or side to side and see if it changes the direction it pulls.
Might work. Try that.
But like I said, this morning, depending on where you were at, but I mean, in our little world, it was slippery as can be because freezing fog and freezing mist, and it was a nice little ice skating rink.
Dean, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. All right, there we go. Anything else you want to get to?
Yeah, so we were talking about the cars. I know we were talking about it off air a little bit, but all the cars and the Teslas and them introducing so many new models, and we're trying to figure out where are they going to put all these people. And I know that so GM, Ford, and Chrysler, when they had those big strikes, isn't it amazing how we've forgotten about those already? A lot of people, probably not the people that were involved in them.
It is weird, yeah.
But it seems like it just went away because the news is in minute segments instead of days and hours. Unless it's,
it's just matching our attention span.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So, but one of the things was they didn't want the electric cars being built as fast as they were because they were afraid they were going to take some of the jobs and it was going to be hard to keep because some of things would shut down, some would increase, but they just thought overall it would take less because of the components being built for them because they used less components, and the no fluids and things like that. Well, Tesla is relying heavily on robots, not people, to build cars. And if you haven't seen it yet,
well, everybody is to some,
but not a robot arm to
I'm
do
talking
a task.
About humanoid, not the robots like you see. Everybody's seen the line on the national news, and they've got a big thing moving and welding. These are humanoid robots. They resemble people. They walk like people. They can speak to a point.
Bad. Just random.
Did I post a picture on Facebook of the one that I stood next to in
random
Phoenix? Did I post that picture on Facebook?
Okay.
You can go back on our Facebook page and look. Yep.
That was a Gen 1. Well, now they're up to Gen 2, and they're going further. But these robots will be – Elon Musk has got it. This is the future for him. They will build his cars, and the robots will build each other. It's kind of a scary thought, isn't it? One robot can build another robot, and those two can build two more.
I've built two.
Recently, they were.
I've built two people.
Two people.
Built.
You build us up every day.
The smallest part of the job.
And my wife built a couple.
Yeah. God's the ultimate creator. You just, that's good.
But it's good. That will our whole landscape of automobiles and transportation, like we discussed a little bit earlier on the show, is really going to change, and a lot of it is, where are we going to get these people to build these things and do this? Overall, though, what it means to you is that deflation of the price of vehicles is a very strong possibility as they're able to create the cars much faster. Or
Chris has got a huge head shake going on.
No way.
Or
nothing.
Massive. Tesla already proved it. Did they lower their prices on their cars or not?
That's not. Did. Yeah. From 140 to 90.
Oh, that's
from
50
70
grand.
to 50.
I think I'll take that.
Yeah, of course you'll take it because that's what they're going to give us.
Yeah. So
there's no deflation.
The prices may come down on some things, or people that are greedy, which they're never going to stop, will take the massive profits they can get.
We don't do deflation. It's not going to be. It's going to seem cheaper because they'll do so. We're paying $100,000 for cars now. That's how the average car price is. What, 43,000?
Yeah, but it's not. I think Russ. I'm not going to disagree with Russ's point. I don't think it's sustainable the track we're on right now for cost of transportation. But but if they can get, if I'm just going to use the Tesla example, if he can make his next Model 2 or whatever they're going to build, and I think one of the plans is that to be completely built by automation. Whether it be robots or automation,
yep.
There'll be very little human involvement. He has a fixed cost He's got a fixed maintenance budget, but he doesn't have the legacy cost of employees.
Yep. No insurance.
So
no
you
healthcare.
got healthcare on a robot would be different than healthcare on a human.
I'm sure that the shareholders will agree to take less profit then.
But maybe if they can be profitable and at a less dollar sale, they win. If they can increase profits with less revenue because they're making a better mousetrap, that's a big win. You can take over a market that way.
So Tesla he claims, he says, I'm not a car company. I don't build cars. Like Casey's General Stores, they say, oh, we're not a gas station. We're a pizza store that happens to sell gas. And I'd agree, their pizza's pretty good, especially a new thin crust. Oh. Anyways, I digress. But he says, we're an AI company, a robot company that happens to build spaceships and cars. That's what he does. And this is the bigger thing that we'll leave you to ponder on as we go. They're building robots so fast, and he's got the robots building each other. It's coming so fast. Within the next 24 months, he expects to be building 180 million robots a year. Now, Apple produces about 200 million iPhones a year because they're automated. The automation makes the phones. The people aren't physically assembling them. When the robots, at first people thought, there's no way you can get enough people to put these together. And then he says, you're right. People aren't going to build them. They're going to build themselves. That is a scary thing to think that we have reached this point on this show where we were talking about hybrids on one of these old shows we're going to put up going, are the hybrids ever going to catch on? What year was that, folks? To now we've got robots that are building our cars.
His prediction was, I looked it up just to make sure, his prediction was 1 billion humanoid robots by 2040, I think is what it was.
2040.
1 billion humanoid robots was his prediction.
That's more than 10% of the people on the planet.
That's scary.
And that's just his company. We've got lots of other companies doing these things too. But I don't know. When cars, Chris, you had a great thing.
Who owns Boston Dynamics now?
Hyundai
Kia.
Yeah, because their robots, they're not autonomous. They have to program them, tell them what to do. Tesla's robots are autonomous. And then like Google, they let Bard, which is their search engine, they turned it loose on the public without knowing what it was going to do. They said, well, we don't know what people are going to do either. Like, but this is a silicone life form you just dropped on the, well, yeah. And there's a discussion between Elon Musk and the CEO of Google about why we should keep a leash on robots and why we should just let them out without testing. Like, that would have been a great thing to sit in and just be the fly on the wall in that. It's changing. But you said, Chris, so these robots, they're humanoids, so they're designed to be able to take the place of any humanoid thing. Whether you're running a tractor, shoveling snow, driving a car, folding laundry, cracking eggs. They can do that. But when cars came along, how many people said, oh, no, we can't have cars. They're going to take the place of our horses. What are we going to do with I sell horses for a living. And they're going to take all this stuff is going to take the place of our jobs. People will find something else to do. That's a scary thought.
I think an AI robot could answer car questions better than me.
I don't think so.
When I was a kid,
it's already been doing it for 20 years. He's not very good at it.
We were going to get robots, and then the robots would do the work. So we could live a life of leisure.
So we could ride around in floaty chairs and be 450 pounds.
I want that. I don't want to scramble to try and pick up the rest. Let's do robots doing the work, and
we'll all be dead.
We'll just do the
we'll be so fat and full of sugar.
Every horrible
we would just be
sci-fi
dead.
movie is made from this is stuff. It's like it's like these are the things that the bad sci-fi movies are.
Well, if you're watching this later and you're trying to go to sleep, good luck.
Yeah,
I like to watch the Under the Hood show because it relaxes me. I learn things and then I fall asleep.
I hope we're wrong. I hope that that in 10 years from now, all of us can look back and say, yeah, it really didn't go as fast as we thought. And
I guarantee you can do that if any 10-year stretch of us.
Yeah. I hope we don't turn into
this reminds me
iRobot, because they're looking more and more like that every day, aren't they?
This reminds me of the time when I had my wisdom teeth pulled and I was on painkillers, and I went to sleep on the couch with the TV on. And while I was drifting in and out of pain reliever sleep, a show about Revelations came on TV.
yeah.
And that's what I dreamt that show. That was some scary
I've fallen
dreams.
asleep
That's what's
watching
going to happen
YouTube,
with
and it
this.
starts randomly, and I wake up and I was having weird. That scene comes to mind in iRobot where Will Smith comes and he opens the door to the warehouse, and there's like 10,000 of these things in there. That's not even a drop in the bucket compared to what.
It's like the Rise of the Resistance at Star Wars and Disney World. Walk in the room, and there you go.
I was in Washington, D.C. this week, and you mentioned just waking up.
Brag. Humble brag.
No,
I got to get there. Smithsonian.
I didn't have time for any of that.
They're in
but
Space Museum.
I had early morning. All the flights were screwy. They were good, but I was on a tight schedule, and I was tired.
You?
And so, yes, me. And so 12:30 on my first night, I actually knew I was going to get to sleep 6 to 7 hours. All of a sudden I wake up and there is noises and red light, and I'm like, I didn't even know where I was. I was like, this isn't my house. I mean, I was totally confused where I even was and what this noise was that I wasn't aware what it was. You know, it's just one of the moments where you're like taken completely out of your deep sleep to the fire alarm going off in the hotel.
Sure.
You know, but it's one of the things I was startled, and I had no idea what was going on. And then all of a sudden, okay, yeah, here's what's going on.
It was not the Four Horsemen, though.
No.
Okay, good.
No, so I waited like most people do when there's a fire alarm at a hotel. It can't be real.
Yeah.
And so then I was like, okay, it was false alarm. And about 30 seconds later, it came back on again. I'm like, all right, pulling my pants on, found my shoes, got a hat, threw a hat on, looked in the hallway. There's a few other people looking in the hallway.
Are you going?
I actually
have to go?
I actually went outside because I couldn't find a definitive no.
It's like how the beginning of the Towering Inferno started with.
So
Robert
I went
Wagner.
outside, and then I came back around to the front because I couldn't get back in the emergency exit. So I came back around to the front door. I did bring my key with, thank goodness, because I needed that. And then I heard the guy on the phone. I think somebody burned some popcorn.
Oh, great. Did they have to come out, and did you have to wait, or were they able to shut it down?
No, they shut it down. And right as I was going up, I got a bag of peanuts and a bottle of water from the mini snack bar behind there. And as I was going up, the fire trucks were just pulling up to help him with the alarm because the young man, obviously, you get that signal. They can't usually turn it off themselves. You got to have somebody say, nope, there's not a fire.
Yeah.
So that was, when you say woke up in the middle of the night, just like, I had no clue where I was, what the noise was, what was going on. And then it was like, well, I think it's a fire alarm. It took like 30 seconds to figure that out, I think. It's terrible.
And then when you wake up, you're in a dead sleep. So you're like, which way do I go when I get out of bed? Because I'm used to it in my house.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
That's exactly right, Russ.
Where am I? And
all
then
of that.
Turn the lights on. You're going, what? What?
Yeah, because at my house, when I get up and pee in the middle of the night, I turn right. This was a turn left, angled door.
Did you ever get up and walk into the wall? Because in the middle of the night, like, oh, man.
Yeah, I've
done that so many times.
Yeah, I'm a habit.
I didn't pee on the alarm clock or anything, but, I went the wrong way.
You want to get back in time. Yeah. All right. That'll do it, I think, for the after show. Anything else?
Back in time.
Hey, I learned something.
People are
I learned
gone.
something the hard
Robots
way.
have taken over.
Learned something the hard way this last weekend. You guys are not going to like it, but I just have to tell you that the iPhone crash alert does work.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, it does work. Saturday, I had a plan of some things I was going to do because I was getting ready to leave town on Sunday. And my friend texted me and said, hey, a few of us are going to go snowmobiling. And so I thought, we could be running out of trail pretty soon. And so we went snowmobiling. And so we went to Trent, and then we were on our way back, and we were going to Jasper, and that wasn't open. And so we stopped in Sherman, and on the way back, my buddies had left first, and I said, I'm going to catch them because I usually do. And I hit just a stupid little hard drift in the field where the path goes across. And just as quick as I could react, which was not, I got shot up and off the snowmobile. And I slid across the ground like the Madagascar penguin, and the lanyard pulled off. And I could watch the snowmobile take off ahead of me. And I'm trying to just tuck and roll. And I never thought nothing of it. It hurt a little bit. I was sore. Ran back to my snowmobile, got on, kept going. By the time I got to Kibble Equipment, I could see them turning across the bridge going into Garrettson, and I'm like, shoot, I didn't catch up with them. little do I know that during that event, I crashed hard enough on the ground that it set off my crash alert for my iPhone.
Wow.
And so as I got back to Garrettson, I went to my friend's house. He said, "Hey, where's Raleigh at?" And so I went back. I said, "Hey, I'll drive back and look for Raleigh." I said, he was right behind me, but I took off fast, and he's probably back there a little ways. I'll just go make sure he's okay. So I turned around and I rode back up and didn't find Raleigh. So I turned around, and as I'm driving back, my friend now in his vehicle pulls up alongside the road. He sees me by the ditch and flashes his light, and so I pull over. He goes, "You okay?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah, the sheriff's at your house, and they're looking for you because they said you were in a crash and you never responded." And so they went and saw my wife, and she's like, initially she never thought any big deal about it, but then she told her a little more, and then she got a little more concerned.
Sure.
Because I was supposed to be coming home. We were going to go out for dinner, and the guys that I thought were behind me that we didn't know where they went, they got stopped by the cops in the ditch. They got cherries turned on to ask them if they'd seen me. And all this time where I'm driving back and forth, somehow or another, I missed everybody. And I was never in trouble. I was never had a problem. But the crash alert feature in the iPhone had given them a coordinate of a crash. And so they had been looking, and
and none of them were surprised, by the way.
And so that was...
They got it and went, "Oh, yeah.
All right, Penguins, where's Corporal Shannon? He was here a moment ago
That's
and
good, Russ.
was launched right off a snowmobile.
Yeah, I don't know. I was going fast enough that it hurt, but I wasn't like fearing for my life or anything.
Right.
It's more fun when you put your hands in the air and you scream like this.
But talk about technology, that I've never tested that feature, and I hope I don't.
I've never had mine. I've dropped mine on the ground and it didn't go off, so it must measure...
They said I looked it up, and
you're moving, and then you
speed,
stop.
velocity, G-force. They've got a combination of things they take into
Because
account.
everybody drops their phone, right?
Yeah. So it's got to be some. I mean, there was definitely some speed, velocity, and G-force involved. But yeah, that was something I learned this weekend. So
that
Chris
does
and I
not
only
surprise me
crashed
at all.
a couple times when we were up there in
I don't
Canada.
think I didn't.
It's small, like around a corner we tipped over.
I
We
don't
were on
think so.
separate. Well, I did.
I don't think I did.
Didn't you tip over once?
I don't think so.
Oh,
No,
just
and
me.
the governor didn't come off when we got to take the governor off.
Mine did.
Mine didn't.
Really?
Yeah, I was mad. And I was kind of okay. I mean, I wish it had gone on, but I did went fast
Those were
enough.
fast.
I went
sleds.
fast enough.
Yeah, because
At
we were doing
Govern.
80, 85 like they were,
I think- yeah,
they
and-
would do
yeah.
like 100 without.
Yeah.
So they were. That's a
was
Canada thing, and they weren't in kilometers. They weren't. But that guy with the rocket sled, he was doing like 140.
Jeez.
That was
I
insane.
could not believe.
Shannon would be like, "Can I
my
ride it? Can I ride it?"
eyes.
Oh, I would have wanted to. Yeah.
I could not believe my eyes.
We were on a
'cause
giant lake.
Yeah,
up
you guys
there.
told me about that.
I knew it was going to be fast. I mean,
Yeah.
we were going fast, and theirs went faster.
So
I'm sure that'll be.
I learned a few things, and the number one thing was that my family was not happy with me with this event, and I don't blame them.
We've been yelling at you for years.
Yeah, but
I generally, in my life, I have generally found that when the sheriff or police show up at your door, someone's going to be unhappy. It tends to lead to stress no matter what the
God
issue
throws
is.
these things into your life, Shannon.
I appreciate
it's
them.
like a wake up call.
I appreciate them doing their job, because if something would have happened, that would have been a nice thing. But
Yeah.
in this case, it was all okay.
She was probably madder that nothing happened than.
No, she was glad nothing
He
happened.
better be dead, because I'm going to kill him if he's not.
All right, there you go. That is the after show. Thanks, everybody. Click subscribe and like and comment on the show. That is true. When you hear people say that, it's true. You should. It helps. There you go.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, you can just tell. Look at the number of views on our video just the last few weeks compared to before that. It's because we got
It's because
like
you
2
subscribed
comments.
and you liked us.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And we like
We like
you
when
too.
people like us.
We do.